Now that should sound a little crazy, but it's actually true. Error correcting codes and quarks and sparks, particles that are not there unless you observe them. This is a little strange. It really is, but this is reality. This is where you live. You're living in a simulation. Now the question is, what are you to do in the simulation, and who created it?
Well, there will come no rapture, because the Bible is my deception. It's deception of Satan. And there will not come any other Jesus Christ but me. But I will reveal my true identity in the middle of the 7-year-long tribulation. After 3.5-year long time, I will reveal myself. So, you live in an illusion. The creator of the universe is Satan. I am the creator of the universe. Believe it or not.
And in China on March 31st, we see this whirlwind picking up these massive balloon play areas and keeping them up in the air. Pretty crazy sight.
Ain't no tower, because there ain't no tower over there. Hey, it's right over there.
Seems like there's some sort of oscillating light in this cloud. He mentions that there's nothing over there. There's nothing that could cause this light in the cloud like this. I don't know what to make of this. Let me know what you guys think. What a strange sight. Millions of crickets all over the place in this area of Saudi Arabia. You can see them even on the trees, just literally covering the entire ground. You see these strange things happening in Saudi Arabia all the time. Actually, we're going to show some more footage in a little bit here of some other things that are going on in Saudi Arabia that I haven't mentioned before, but we've seen a lot of weird stuff going on there of recent within the last 3 months. Massive water spout appears in Penang, Malaysia, takes out at least 50 houses. It actually looks like it's going to take out the skyscraper, but somehow dissipates as it arrives on land, almost exactly when it arrives on land. I've seen an increase of a lot of these type of natural phenomenon with like hurricanes and tornadoes and such since the 1920s, and it's been exponentially getting larger in volume. From even like in the 1920s, we had 10 or 20 natural phenomena like this, but now it's around 400 a year, and one of the things that's been increasing a lot are these dust storms as well.
The biggest I've ever seen. Arable land becomes drier and, very crusty and easily being broken by any wind.
Vegetation in the Middle East has decreased by 30% over the last 15 years.
And our teacher told us to get under the desk. We were all kind of really antsy. It was huge. Stuff started flying out of the bookcases. And then the fire alarm went off and we went into emergency power. And then we were told just to stay under our desk for a long while until an aftershock hit. And then we were told to evacuate.
Because what's going to happen is robots will be able to do everything better than us. I'm including, all of us, Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what to do about this. There's something like 12% of jobs are transport. Transport will be one of the first things to go fully autonomous. But when I say everything, the robots will be able to do everything, bar nothing.
If you have ultra-intelligent AI, we would be, so far below them in intelligence that it would be like, a pet, basically.
Cat, that's what I was
like a
thinking.
pet.
Like
a cat.
a cat.
Like a cat. It would be
Elon
like
the
a house
cat,
cat. Yeah, it would be like the house cat.
Right.
That's not the end of the world,
Well,
sort of pets. But honestly, that would be the benign scenario.
Mm-hmm. So house cat is okay.
I don't love the idea of being a house cat.
Okay.
But
there's a sort of a philosophic concept that a sufficiently advanced civilization will be able to create a simulation. Yeah, maybe you've answered this before. A simulation.
I've had so many simulation discussions; it's crazy.
Okay. Because
in fact, it got to the point where basically every conversation was the AI/simulation conversation. And my brother and I finally agreed that we would ban such conversations if we were ever in a hot tub. Okay. That was because that really kills the magic.
Hot tub, so the idea is right. Any sufficiently advanced civilization could create a simulation that's like our existence, and so the theory follows that maybe we're in the simulation. Have you thought about this? And
a lot.
Are we?
Even in hot tubs? So much so it had to be banned from a hot tub.
Yeah. Okay.
I think here's, the strongest argument for us being in a simulation, probably being in a simulation, I think is the following. That 40 years ago we had Pong, like two rectangles and a dot. That was what games were. Now, 40 years later, we have photorealistic 3D simulations with millions of people playing simultaneously, and it's getting better every year. Mm-hmm. And soon we'll have virtual reality, augmented reality. If you assume any rate of improvement at all, then the games will become indistinguishable from reality, just indistinguishable. Mm-hmm. Even if that rate of advancement drops by 1,000 from what it is right now, then you just say, okay, well, let's imagine it's 10,000 years in the future, which is nothing in the evolutionary scale. So given that we're clearly on a trajectory to have games that are indistinguishable from reality, and those games could be played on any set-top box or on a PC or whatever, and there would probably be, billions of such, computers or set-top boxes, it would seem to follow that the odds that we're in base reality is 1 in billions.
So
tell me what's wrong with that argument.
Is the answer yes?
The argument is probably. But it's like, is there a flaw in that argument?
someone.
I'm not sure what the error.
No. The argument makes sense. So the assumption then is that somebody beat us to it, and this is a game.
No, there's a 1 in billions chance that this is base reality.
Oh, okay.
Tassa, Remi, Laris, Satan, Ave Satanis. 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 Tassa, Remi, Laris, Satan, Ave Satanas, Tassa Rami Laris 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 Satan, Ave.
This is to prevent there being an external AI, particularly one controlled by a small group of people that could be so much more powerful and intelligent than we are that the house
it would be godlike in its capability.
Occurs.
Yeah.
Well, this has been really cheerful. Thank you.
Yeah. I try to convince people to slow down AI, to regulate AI. I tried for years. Nobody listened.
AI is a rare case where I think we need to be proactive in regulation instead of reactive. Because I think by the time we are reactive in AI regulation, it's too late. And normally the way regulations are set up is that a whole bunch of bad things happen, there's a public outcry, and then after many years, a regulatory agency is set up to regulate that industry. And it takes forever. In the past, it has been bad, but not something which represented a fundamental risk to the existence of civilization. AI is a fundamental risk to the existence of human civilization.
I work in robotics at Brown University, and I'm scared of robots. But can you blame me? Ever since I was a kid, all I've seen are movies that portray the ascendance of artificial intelligence and our inevitable conflict with it.
Russia and China are already investing in military AI technology.
I think it really first comes down to the responsibility of every engineer and developer to ensure that the governments around the world are aware of the risks in the use of this technology.
The US, too, is investing in artificial intelligence. Boston Dynamics has made machines that can run, do backflips, and even open doors.
There's a lot of crazy technology coming out these days. We have AI. We have CRISPR technology for gene editing. Now we have autonomous robots as well. Now, of course, if they're talking about this, that doesn't mean that it's just now coming out. It's just now that they want the public to know about it. It's probably been around for 10, 20 years in secret type of, projects and such. So the fact is, they probably do have autonomous robots that can take people's lives and that can be used for whatever it wants to use them. And of course, the United States is not stopping from using these. China clearly isn't stopping from using these. They're using some of their best students, some of their best new scientists to go into this field and create these. I've mentioned that on previous videos as well. So we have some crazy future in front of us. I mean, honestly, with this AI, with autonomous robots, with CRISPR technology, the future is going to be very, very creepy.
But if we can establish...
I was worried about asteroids at the beginning of this.
I mean, asteroids are a low probability existential threat on the time scale that's relevant to us.
Okay.
But in reality, if you're creating something that has the ability to evolve and become more intelligent and has an infinite capacity to become more intelligent, then you have a problem, especially if it doesn't have any sort of morality to it. It may look at humans like ants, like how we would look at ants. You're building a road and there's an anthill in the way. Who cares about an anthill? Just build the road. And AI may look at humans the same way. As you saw with the movie The Matrix, it turned us into batteries. I mean, it doesn't have a conscience. It's made to just solve problems. And if it has its own sort of free will, if it is really sentient, then maybe it will just do whatever it wants. It sees humanity in its way. It just gets rid of it. And it won't shed a tear over it.
What do you think?
Well, I think it's 1 in billions.
Okay. Yeah,
I mean, that seems to be like clearly what what it suggests.
Right.
And actually, I mean, arguably we should hope that that's true, because otherwise, if civilization stops advancing, then that may be due to some calamitous event that erases civilization. So maybe we should be hopeful that this is a simulation, because otherwise...
Because they could reboot it.
Well, otherwise, either we're going to create simulations that are indistinguishable from reality, or civilization will cease to exist. Those are the two options.
Could we live in a simulation? I always wondered this myself. Even back 15 years ago, I thought, we're in some sort of simulation. And what's interesting is this is not the only evidence that I've found here. Okay, this man here talks about quarks and sparks and how they have a certain sort of code correction within them that is used for websites. Very strange, okay? Codes for errors. I also found that there is a message in our own DNA. Now, within our DNA, there's certain sequences that once you add in the numbers from various letters of the core alphabets of the ancient past, take, for example, Arabic or Hebrew or Sanskrit, each letter has a number attributed to them. When you use these numbers in conjunction with the letter codes of our DNA, you start to notice patterns. One of these patterns is a correlation to the periodic table. So how is it that our DNA has a code in it that tells you a message if you use the numbers from the core ancient languages?
I had found this very strange thing. Physicists, I like to say we all belong to a company called Equations Are Us, because that's how we make our living, is by solving equations. And so I was just going through solving equations, and I was then driven to things that Max knows about, these things called error-correcting codes. Error-correcting codes are what make browsers work. So why were they in the equations that I was studying about quarks and leptons and supersymmetry? And that's what brought me to this very stark realization that I could no longer say that people like Max were crazy. Or, stated another way, if you study physics long enough, you too can become crazy.
That's another, it's a corollary to that idea, yeah.
If the simulation hypothesis is valid, then we open the door to eternal life and resurrection and things that formerly have been discussed in the realm of religion. And the reason is really quite simple, because if you think about a computer, if we are a simulation, then we're like programs in a computer. As long as I have a computer that's not damaged, I can always rerun the program, right? So if you really believe that we are in a simulation and there's some structure that runs that simulation, unless something damages that structure, then we can be repurposed. And so it starts to break down a very funny barrier between what people often think is the conflict between science and the conflict between faith.
So what you're saying is that if we are simulated, that means there's a code that's doing it, and that code was started at some point, and in principle, it could just be rebooted. And then all of this would happen exactly the way it happened before, because it's running the same computer program.
Using computers, the best science of today, and some of those ancient texts. And the bottom line is that what we discovered is every single ancient language, the letters of the language link to very precise numbers that have never changed. So whether we're talking about the Arabic language or the Hebrew language, or if we're talking about cuneiform and Sanskrit, what are called the ancient core or the ancient root languages, there's a mysterious number that's always been linked to those letters, and nobody knows where the numbers came from. That was interesting to me. So through a process that took many years, I came to understand that the numbers that represent the letter are also the numbers that represent the elements, what we call the elements on the periodic table, of life and a physical reality as we know it. So in other words, it is if the ancients, they didn't know about the periodic table of elements the way we do today, but they knew about the numbers that were represented. And when we make the connections between the letters of the ancient alphabets, the numbers they represent, those numbers, if we look at them on the periodic table, they happen to be precisely the elements that make the DNA in our bodies. Now, we have the ability to take the sequences of DNA in a cell and through those numbers link them to the letters in ancient alphabets. And lo and behold, the letters spell words and the words have meaning. And this has led to a book that's entitled The God Code. It was released in the year 2004. What we know is that there is a message, an intentional message within the DNA of all life. The message occurs in layers, and each layer has its own code that must be understood for that layer. And I'm still working on the deeper layers.
Greg Braden says the message hidden in the DNA of all living beings is that which spiritual masters have tried to convey to humanity through the ages. He now reveals what's written in the topmost layer of our genetic code.
The top layer is one that we understand very well right now. The top layer in the DNA of all life literally translates into the words God, eternal, within the body. God, eternal, within the body. We don't know who put that message there. We don't know exactly why it's there. But I can tell you that all I did was I followed the instructions in a series of ancient texts following those languages, and I married that with the science of today, and this is what we found. If a higher intelligence is responsible for our existence, and that intelligence created us, it makes perfect sense that that intelligence would have left something for us to understand who we are. And if they left it in a temple or a text that could be destroyed and disappear over time, it wouldn't make sense. It makes perfect sense that that higher intelligence would have left the message encoded into the creation itself. And as long as the creation exists, the message is intact.
This weird message that is tied in our DNA, but is also tied to the first core ancient languages. It's almost as if those who had those core ancient languages were given those languages by the one who created us. It's very strange, you know? And then it points to our elements, scientific elements on the periodic table, which clearly indicates, obviously, whoever created us knew about the elements on the periodic table as well. It sort of makes sense, wouldn't it? Just a little bit. So it seems very strange. You have this weird, ancient, map that is given to where they knew, that whoever created us, looking at it from an objective manner here, they knew we would eventually have scientific advancement, and they knew we would eventually be able to look at DNA on a microscopic level, be able to read the code on DNA, and we would be able to actually tie it somehow to whoever created us through the numerical values on ancient letters in ancient languages. It's very strange, but it does actually make sense if you think about it.
The conclusion is inescapable. The single electron leaves as a particle, becomes a wave of potentials, goes through both slits, and interferes with itself to hit the wall like a particle. But mathematically, it's even stranger. It goes through both slits, and it goes through neither. And it goes through just one, and it goes through just the other. All of these possibilities are in superposition with each other. But physicists were completely baffled by this. So they decided to peek and see which slit it actually goes through. They put a measuring device by one slit to see which one it went through and let it fly. But the quantum world is far more mysterious than they could have imagined. When they observed, the electron went back to behaving like a little marble. It produced a pattern of two bands. not an interference pattern of many. The very act of measuring or observing which slit it went through meant it only went through one, not both. The electron decided to act differently, as though it was aware it was being watched. And it was here that physicists stepped forever into the strange, never-world of quantum events. What is matter? Marbles or waves? And waves of what? And what does an observer have to do with any of this? The observer collapsed the wave function simply by observing.
Yes, you have entered into the Twilight Zone, or should we say the Matrix, because in reality, what you don't perceive doesn't happen necessarily. According to this experiment, a double-slit quantum experiment, a particle may act like a particle or a wave depending on if you're watching it or not. If there's no observer, it changes its pattern.